In this training, we're going to take a look at how we can identify and fix errors that exist when we're trying to import data into our SmartSuite application. If that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. Picking up where we left off, we are trying to import data from our CSV file into our SmartSuite application. Here we are, and we see immediately on the review phase of the import process that we've got a bunch of red flags, quite literally. So all of these demonstrate or denote an error that is going to cause a problem, and we can't move forward with this. Now, what is the issue? Well, we can hover over and see, and it tells us that this is an invalid record title given. So we've named out our accounts, and let's really quickly just back out here and take a look at what we have going on. So we're trying to import this data, and we're mapping the company inside of our file to the account inside of SmartSuite. But you'll notice that there isn't already an account here. If I look at my different accounts to choose from, there is no account called Poison. There is no account called Gap Consulting or any of the other companies that are in our spreadsheet. So what do we do about this? Well, we can try just importing this data anyway. Let's start with that just to see where it gets us. I'll just import the data and set this up one more time. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to keep it a little simple, and we're just going to go into mapping just two fields. I'm going to only map my name field here and my company field from my CSV file. So I'll say next on this one. I'm not going to worry, as I said, about any of these other ones. I'll X them all out and remove them from the import. And instead, I will look at the account and I will look at the name here. So I'm mapping the full name to the name, and I'm mapping the company to the account. That's all I need to worry about here. And I'm going to set that up. I'm happy with it. So I say next, and I'm not going to even worry about updating existing records. And again, I get that error because these accounts don't exist in my account application. So because it's a linked relationship, we're having a problem there. If I say import anyway, what's going to happen? It's going to tell me there are 6 errors in the data. Every row must be clear of errors, so I simply can't move forward until I fix these errors. So how can I work on this? Well, first I have to make sure that those accounts do exist inside of my accounts. So let's go ahead and open up our accounts here and take a look. Obviously, they don't already exist. So what if I open up my spreadsheet instead and I just create these accounts? I'm going to go ahead and copy here and flip back into SmartSuite. Now inside of here, I'll say add a new record, and I'm going to hit paste just down here in the bottom record. It's going to tell me, hey, you're trying to paste in a lot of data. Actually, I've copied in 6 different accounts and I'm only pasting into one cell. So it's asking me what I want to do. And of course, I want to expand the view so that I can add all of these accounts. And now, just that easy, I have all of those accounts created. So now that I have these records inside of my accounts, what's going to happen if I try to do that import again? Let's go back to contacts. I'm going to set this up, import data, and go back to CSV import. Again, I'm going to go down and bring in that file one more time. Let's find it right here. And when I'm happy here, of course, select my headers, move on to next, and I map my 2 fields. I'm going to ditch these again and just worry about those 2. I'm mapping company to account, and I'm mapping full name to name. Find it here from the list and move on to the next screen. And now when I go ahead and load up my next screen, I have removed all of the errors here because I have created the accounts. This is going to be one of the biggest errors that you ever find is if you're trying to import to linked data, you have to first create the linked record before you can link to it in your import. But as you see, I've properly fixed that now, and I can say import. I can also say that I want to update my existing records because there's already a Gareth inside of my system, and I don't want to create a new one. We mentioned that in the previous training, so if you're not quite sure about updating records, take a quick look at that. Once I'm happy with this, I'll save, and I can click import, and now I've cleared my errors for this example, and I can bring this data in. It's going to take just a moment to add this information, and now you see that Gareth here, who previously did not have an account linked to him, now is properly linked to that account. However, none of that other information was brought in. We didn't add any of the other folks, and that's because of the selection that I made when setting this up. So let's go back to contacts once again to import data, again through a CSV import, and I'm going to access that yet one more time, bring in my template here, and move on from my headers, of course, map to the name field one more time, map to the account from my company, And I'm going to remove email, birthday, and department and move on to next. The only difference here is when I say update existing records, I'm going to select create the unmatched records as well to make sure that we're actually creating these other ones. And we're going to save it and import. So if I have that unchecked, of course, that means that all I'm going to do is update the existing records but not create new ones. Whereas if I do have that checked, then I'm actually creating new records as well. So you see here I have Vince Neil. I have, let's see, who else got added? Joe Elliott. Who else got added? We have D. Snyder. So these folks were able to now be created through that import process. Now there's more stuff that we might have an issue with inside of our import. So let's actually go back to our full import here. I'm going to import my data one more time. Of course, this time I'm going to update all my existing records and I'm going to map to that primary field because I've now created all of these people inside of my application. So I'll save this, but then I will go and bring in that spreadsheet one more time. Here it is. And once inside here, I'm going to include all of these fields to see if we can see or spot some other issues with this. I'm going to go ahead and click next, and now I'm mapping to the full thing, right? So I'm going to bring in my name, I'm going to bring in the account. There will be no changes here because we just performed this import. I'm going to import the email address, the birthday, and department is supposed to map to teams in our example. That is just a little bit of a difference here. SmartSuite thinks that it's supposed to be the same field name, but in our case, we actually mixed up the field names. They mean different things in our example. So once I'm happy with the settings here, I'm going to move on to the next screen, and I'm not actually going to see any errors here, but there are some errors that are going to occur. One of them is the fact that this team right here inside of my import file does not include a dash, but inside of SmartSuite, it does include a dash. I'm worried about the C space suite, and I want to update it with C dash suite. If I flip quickly into my spreadsheet, you're going to see that I have two instances of C suite, one here, one here. I'll go ahead and highlight them. And in each case, there is a space instead of the dash that I had inside of SmartSuite. So I need to be sure to update this. Now, one way to do this would, of course, be to make sure the data is right in my CSV file before I perform the import. But if I didn't notice, then I have the opportunity to update it before we import the data. Flipping back into here is first click on Find and Replace, and then I choose the column. In our case, it is the team column. And I'm looking for C space suite, just like this. You see here that we found two different instances where that existed. I might also look at empty cells. Maybe I want to fill out an empty cell with some information. I can perform a find and replace on those as well. Now, once I'm happy with what this looks like, and notice that I can also choose to exactly match the entire cell and or toggle on or off my case sensitivity. But now I want to replace this with C-suite. I want to make sure that it matches the way that I've set up that single select field already, and I can say replace all. When I do that, you see that I'm actually updating the information that will be imported. So this find and replace feature is going to really help you troubleshoot a lot of those errors if stuff didn't quite map out the way you planned, or maybe you had some information that didn't quite look right in your import. Well, now you are able to map it all here. So now I have my full data set. I'm going to map it all. I'm going to import it all. I'm going to click import one more time and double check that all that information came in properly. So of course it takes just a moment, but now we are good to go. You can see that for the first time, we have birthdays now added to our data set. So we have that. You also see that I have been updated here. So I was previously on the finance team and now I'm on the C-suite team. Congratulations on the promotion. So we're all set, right? All that information is properly mapped. So that little application in there, the find and replace feature on that review screen, is going to be your best friend when you're making sure that everything maps out appropriately and you've eliminated all of those errors. If you have any questions about what we covered in this training, please ask them below in the comments section of this video. And until then, we'll see you in the next training.